Allison and Paula had been friends for a long time, ever since their first year at university. They sat next to each other by chance at first, then during break they started talking and discovered they lived not far from each other. They walked home together, chatting about this and that, and later prepared for exams together. After passing their first session, they convinced their parents to let them go to the capital. There, they wandered around so much that their feet nearly fell off. In the capital, they eagerly watched plays at whatever theater they could get tickets to, rushing to make it on time. When they discussed what they'd seen, it turned out they liked the same things, which brought them even closer. When the second semester started, parties came pouring in and they always went together. Paula loved them dearly and never got bored. By all accounts, Paula should have had a boyfriend long ago. Young men were interested in her, and Allison couldn't even remember all their names. But she saw and understood that Paula wouldn't go through fire and water for any of them. When Allison told her this, Paula didn't hesitate to reply, "Maybe I should follow them to the ends of the earth or something, like in that tale about paradise in a shack." Allison didn't know, and she herself didn't have a boyfriend at all. She wasn't a recluse, but something inside held her back, even from light flirting. "Paula, enlighten me. Who are you looking for?" her friend asked one day. "I want someone special, and I want to fall head over heels in love myself," Paula replied. Allison wanted the same, though she often admitted to herself that she and Paula were different after all. But they were friends in every sense, not just borrowing each other's bags or coats. They liked the same movies, both loved ice cream so much they could skip lunch for it, and they dissected the guys they knew from their group or met at parties. Neither Paula nor Allison kept score of who the guys paid more attention to, but Paula suggested a few times they make a bet, saying she'd definitely win. It was clear Paula was ahead anyway, as their group leader Alex said, "Paula has fewer complexes and more spunk." But that didn't interfere with their friendship. Maybe if they'd gone to different cities after university, they'd have stayed friends, even at a distance. Allison had such a friend from first grade, Irene. Their dads served in the same garrison back then, and there was no school nearby. What could you expect in the middle of the taiga? Like all officers' kids of school age, Allison was sent to a special boarding school. She stayed there all week, and only on Sundays did an old service vehicle from the battalion commander pick up the kids from the garrison and take them to the officers' dormitory where their parents lived. Later, their fathers were scattered to other posts in different cities, but Allison and Irene never stopped being friends. Allison still kept Irene's letters from their childhood. They were so special, warm, and dear. Allison really wanted to see Irene, and Irene wrote about the same in almost every letter. They were amazed their friendship had lasted nearly 15 years, 11 of which they hadn't seen each other. But Allison and Irene had already agreed to meet at the sea for their 25th birthdays, which were close together in July. Allison and Paula had been friends for a long time, ever since their first year at university. They sat next to each other by chance at first, then during break they started talking and discovered they lived not far from each other. They walked home together, chatting about this and that, and later prepared for exams together. After passing their first session, they convinced their parents to let them go to the capital. There, they wandered around so much that their feet nearly fell off. In the capital, they eagerly watched plays at whatever theater they could get tickets to, rushing to make it on time. When they discussed what they'd seen, it turned out they liked the same things, which brought them even closer. When the second semester started, parties came pouring in and they always went together. Paula loved them dearly and never got bored. By all accounts, Paula should have had a boyfriend long ago. Young men were interested in her, and Allison couldn't even remember all their names. But she saw and understood that Paula wouldn't go through fire and water for any of them. When Allison told her this, Paula didn't hesitate to reply, "Maybe I should follow them to the ends of the earth or something, like in that tale about paradise in a shack." Allison didn't know, and she herself didn't have a boyfriend at all. She wasn't a recluse, but something inside held her back, even from light flirting. "Paula, enlighten me. Who are you looking for?" her friend asked one day. "I want someone special, and I want to fall head over heels in love myself," Paula replied. Allison wanted the same, though she often admitted to herself that she and Paula were different after all. But they were friends in every sense, not just borrowing each other's bags or coats. They liked the same movies, both loved ice cream so much they could skip lunch for it, and they dissected the guys they knew from their group or met at parties. Neither Paula nor Allison kept score of who the guys paid more attention to, but Paula suggested a few times they make a bet, saying she'd definitely win. It was clear Paula was ahead anyway, as their group leader Alex said, "Paula has fewer complexes and more spunk." But that didn't interfere with their friendship. Maybe if they'd gone to different cities after university, they'd have stayed friends, even at a distance. Allison had such a friend from first grade, Irene. Their dads served in the same garrison back then, and there was no school nearby. What could you expect in the middle of the taiga? Like all officers' kids of school age, Allison was sent to a special boarding school. She stayed there all week, and only on Sundays did an old service vehicle from the battalion commander pick up the kids from the garrison and take them to the officers' dormitory where their parents lived. Later, their fathers were scattered to other posts in different cities, but Allison and Irene never stopped being friends. Allison still kept Irene's letters from their childhood. They were so special, warm, and dear. Allison really wanted to see Irene, and Irene wrote about the same in almost every letter. They were amazed their friendship had lasted nearly 15 years, 11 of which they hadn't seen each other. But Allison and Irene had already agreed to meet at the sea for their 25th birthdays, which were close together in July. Allison often compared Irene and Paula, then stopped. They were somehow different. She didn't want to consider either one less of a friend because she and Paula were close without distance getting in the way. But speaking of obstacles, Allison spoke too soon. The obstacle was Timothy. He showed up at one of the usual parties that one of their classmates quickly organized while their parents were away until Sunday evening. He came with his friend, also a student from their group. This friend convinced Timothy to join him for company, promising it would be fun. Timothy didn't often spend time like that. By today's standards, he was a serious guy, deeply passionate about digital technology. That evening, he felt he'd been cooped up at the computer too long, so he decided to get out of the house and went to the party. Timothy didn't notice Allison right away. The group was large, the lights were dim as expected, music blared. After some time, a cheerful girl's voice announced a white dance, and a girl approached Timothy. Even in the dim light, he noticed she was beautiful. They danced, and Timothy, who had once taken ballroom dancing, noted that the girl moved lightly and correctly. There was a pause. The girl didn't let go of his hand, and together they approached another girl standing by the balcony. "How did we dance?" her partner asked her. "I forgot to say, I'm Paula, and this is my friend Allison. Now it's your turn to introduce yourself." Timothy hesitated. He was looking at the girl they'd just approached. He couldn't describe how she looked. She drew him in without saying a word, like in some novel from the century before last. He wanted to look at her and hear her voice. But the new melody started, and Paula, fully confident Timothy would invite her again, stepped toward him. Instead, Timothy stepped toward Allison. At that moment, a black cat ran between the girls. Only Paula noticed it, and she wasn't wrong. By the end of the party, there was no doubt. Timothy had chosen Allison. For a while, Paula held back and didn't ask Allison about Timothy, but she knew they were dating. When they spent time in the same company, Paula didn't hide that she liked Timothy. She always had a ton of questions for him and fully agreed with his opinions. Paula could now rudely interrupt Allison without letting her get a word in. Her interest, more than interest, in the guy shot out like sparks. She hung on his every word. But whether she didn't understand, or more likely didn't want to understand, that Timothy was only interested in Allison, she refused to acknowledge it. Allison tried not to think that their current relationship with Paula barely resembled friendship. She didn't want their friendship to end so banally, and she felt no guilt. There wasn't a single case where Allison had stolen a guy from Paula, and vice versa hadn't happened either. Allison was selective about potential suitors, but Paula wasn't throwing herself at everyone. But here, Allison already knew, felt, that Timothy wasn't just any case. How to put it clearer for herself? Probably like this. Timothy was her case, and she was his, so Paula should understand that. Allison would definitely understand, but Paula wasn't Allison. Though she wouldn't exactly say what angered her more, that Timothy chose Allison or that Paula truly loved him and wanted to be only with him.
Paula didn't dig into herself or the situation. She quarreled with Allison, but the quarrel was one-sided. Paula accused Allison of all mortal sins, said she'd finally realized there was no friendship between them. Otherwise, Allison wouldn't have so brazenly stolen Timothy from her. Paula's last words were, "I don't want to see you anymore. Just remember, you two won't be together anyway." Paula hardly regretted losing her friend, but Allison was beside herself. If not for Timothy, she'd have felt guilty. But Timothy quickly shook her out of it. "Do I mean anything to you, Allison? How I feel about you, does that matter? If I didn't know you, I'd probably turn around and leave without looking back. You understand that you can't force love. You know what I just thought? Paula tried to wedge between us, but we just shouldn't let her. And I don't believe she can't live without me. It's just like a toy was taken away. Forgive me, Paula, but I'm not a toy, and I only need you." Allison listened to Timothy with her head down. He was right, of course. Allison only needed Timothy, and he needed her. She had no doubt about that. But why didn't Paula understand? Before the wedding, Allison told Timothy she wanted to invite Paula as a bridesmaid, but she hesitated, so at least as a guest. Allison hadn't found or sought out her friend like Paula had. Timothy agreed. He said she could invite whoever she wanted as long as Allison herself came to the wedding. Paula was among the first at the wedding and didn't leave Allison's side all evening. She stood between Allison and Timothy several times, holding their arms, congratulating them over and over, wishing them immense happiness and a happy family life. Allison was glad they'd reconciled. Timothy remained polite and calm until he couldn't take it anymore. He approached Paula, took the microphone, and said that standing between the bride and groom was a bad omen. You could end up the third wheel. Paula snorted, but didn't stand between Allison and Timothy anymore. After the wedding, they went to the Black Sea for a week, bringing back not just tans and good moods, but nearly 500 photos. Until New Year's, they chose which photo to print large and hang up, with friends participating. They often visited Allison and Timothy's home. Paula started visiting often too, always sincerely happy for them. She kept telling Allison how happy she looked, that it was no wonder with Timothy by her side. At the same time, Paula found ways to show interest in Timothy. It was hard not to notice, but Paula didn't cross boundaries. At least, that's what Allison thought. She waited for Paula to introduce her own boyfriend, whom she never forgot to mention.
But Timothy grew more reserved with each of Paula's visits. Allison didn't want to admit she understood that Paula's visits burdened Timothy, but you had to know him. Rudeness toward a girl was incompatible with his nature. Then other concerns took priority for Allison and Timothy. They were going to have a child. They'd thought about kids more than once, even argued about how many there should be. Allison especially wanted a daughter. "I don't really know how to play with a boy," she told Timothy. "And what about me? I haven't forgotten how," Timothy replied. "And the fact that I don't know how to play dolls with a daughter doesn't bother you at all? I'll just tell the kids our mom is a bit of an egoist." And they had a son. Allison immediately forgot she wanted a daughter. The boy was a mini Timothy, which even threw Timothy off a bit. Was I like that? But he's cute, right, Allie? Now they listened and watched Arthur closely, both getting tired, but always together, except for Timothy's work hours. Even then, Allison knew he was nearby. Paula started visiting even more often, usually in the evening. She offered to help Allison around the house, but Allison refused. She'd learned to manage herself. So Paula was left with shared dinners and questions on various topics for Timothy. She talked to him about everything, not letting Allison get a word in. Even Allison started to tire of Paula's company, and Timothy refused to discuss the topic, saying he didn't want to be rude in the home where his wife and son were. But then they faced a money shortage. The situation wasn't critical. Allison and Timothy were never spendthrifts, but a small child required a lot, and they tried to give him everything. Timothy was involved in a new project with a promising big bonus, but only after completion and acceptance, so no time for side jobs. They didn't argue or sort things out over money. That wasn't them. Instead, each tried to take on more. Both knew it was temporary. Paula offered help too. How she found out, Allison had no idea, but Allison firmly refused and didn't even tell Timothy about it. So she had a sort of secret from her husband. Allison was sure Timothy would be indignant, maybe even say something sharp to Paula. But Allison racked her brain on how to help Timothy and decided to try remote work. She found a half-time job as a logistician at a solid company. The interview went well, and she started. Allison succeeded at everything, and in the first month, the boss gave her a bonus, taking her word that she didn't plan to leave soon. Now the laptop at home was always open. At first, Allison wanted to hide the side job from Timothy, but when he asked directly about the open laptop, she confessed and consoled him. Her husband was upset. He understood that now Allison had no time to rest at all. Arthur wasn't too fussy, but he was still the center of attention, so Timothy tried to send Allison to rest earlier after work. He could bathe and put his son to sleep himself. That's how the financial strain eased in their home. Then Timothy came home from work one day with a face like thunder. Allison got scared. What happened? Timothy tried to delay the explanation. It was too awful. The thing was, his friend had sent him an SMS with a link to an intimate services site and a profile of his wife. Timothy couldn't work normally after that. He was sure it was nonsense, but decided to check. What shocked him first was the photo. It was really his Allison's. But he told himself it could have been stolen. There were plenty of shady hackers online. Then Timothy registered on the site and started chatting, asking about age and specific appearance features that only someone close to Allison would know. The interlocutor dodged most questions, but the majority of answers sounded truthful enough. But could this really be his Allison? Timothy wasn't just upset, he didn't know what to do. He decided to talk to his wife, and at home asked, "Allison, are you really doing logistics, or are there other related areas?" Allison was puzzled. Logistics? Arthur leaves no time for anything else. Why are you asking? Did something happen at work? It's all our new project, Timothy said untruthfully, and as far as he knew, this was his first lie. But distrust had taken root inside him, and more than anything, he wanted to get rid of it, so he devised a plan all night to clarify everything. Timothy realized he needed a meeting with Allison, and if the site was to be believed, to get the promised services. For him, such a meeting was completely new, but he followed exactly what the woman calling herself Allison instructed. He arrived at the named hotel on time, went up to the room number given. He didn't even knock, the door opened. Behind it was a girl in a coat from neck to ankles with a wide mask on her face. Only the chin was clearly visible, but Timothy didn't get to examine it. As soon as he entered the room for explanations, the girl deftly pushed him onto the bed. Timothy didn't expect that, but didn't panic. He jumped to his feet and back. He wanted to rage, but limited himself to ripping off the girl's mask. And there it was, cunning multiplied by meanness, seasoned with wounded pride, an explosive mix. Paula had used this mix. It was her who'd long and carefully hatched her plan against the one she considered her friend. Paula had checked and double-checked it, building what she wanted. And she wanted to sow discord in Allison and Timothy's family, and she'd almost succeeded. So, without the mask that Timothy had torn off, she shouted right in his face, "I won't give up so easily. You'll be mine anyway. You haven't gotten everything yet. You both haven't gotten everything yet." Timothy heard these words, or threat, as he left the room. He wanted to rush home right then, but his legs buckled from shock. He stood thinking how easily everything could be destroyed. Just believe a fake profile on a site and that's it. And it was so convincing there. Paula had done it knowingly and calculated that Timothy would bite. When he wanted to meet the supposed Allison himself, she launched another plan. Was this madness from unrequited love? He didn't believe in such love. He believed that his Allison loved him, and he had from the start. Only now Allison might stop loving him, suspect him of that. How had she looked at him when Timothy started clarifying if she was doing logistics? And now, whether there had been suspicion or not, he needed to tell Allison everything. Timothy imagined how painful and unpleasant it would be for her. Allison so wanted to preserve their friendship with Paula, but the truth was more important, and Timothy hurried home. At home, Allison met him, not crying, but with such a face that now Timothy got scared. He asked his wife what happened. Allison had just put little Arthur to sleep and was about to do urgent work when her phone buzzed. She opened it, and there was a short video clip. The main character was her husband, Timothy. The heroine wore a mask, face not visible, but what was happening between them was immediately clear. Plus the hotel room decor, and it was clear how her husband entered that room. Then the clip cut off, followed by a few separate frames where both characters were already on the bed.
On that, the clip ended, but it was enough. "Look," Allison said, trying to stay calm. Timothy watched and barely held back from commenting on the whole thing in the harshest words, but he caught his breath and told Allison everything he'd learned over these few days. Paula is one of those who doesn't take no for an answer, ignores others. She has issues with a sense of proportion, but no issues with decency. Decency is absent in her. Allison, you were friends with her for so many years, but didn't know the real Paula. Not because she hid it from you, but because there was no occasion to fully reveal herself. Plus, you're different in principle, so you lived in ignorance for so long. If not for me, and I'm almost sure Paula feels no love for me at all. She just can't handle that I chose you and never doubted it. You know what would happen if I'd responded to her advances? Timothy asked. She'd soon forget about me. Paula's not dumb. She saw the difference between us. But this way, the poor thing had to stage this theater, post a fake profile on the site, probably spend money to make the fake profile, then arrange a meeting at the hotel, make a video recording. And when I tore off her mask, she hurried to send you the fragments of the video that suited her. She needed to make me look like a scoundrel, to do everything so you'd fight with me tooth and nail. She knew you wouldn't forgive me that. Then what? We'd divorce? Do you think she even remembered our little Arthur? Remembered who we are to each other? And when everything collapsed for us, then Paula would appear, first to console you, second me, but probably not for long. Allison listened to Timothy and realized they had just been on the brink of divorce. What saved them? The ability to not rush to conclusions, to overcome themselves and talk, clarify, sort it out. But above all, trust. Paula hadn't managed to shake it. If others with hot heads and no trust between them had been in their place, it would have ended differently. And for many, it did. Later, hindsight made it harder to restore what, how, and why happened. Only emotions remained, especially if nothing had actually happened. In the morning, Allison saw Timothy off to work, and he asked, "Allison, what if Paula comes to you today or tomorrow and either repents or says you or I misunderstood her, that she's your only friend? Timothy, how can she come to our home after this?" "I don't know, but it turns out you can expect anything from Paula," said Timothy. "I don't want to know her, see her, or hear her anymore," Allison said without doubt. "How to learn not to be wrong about people." "Honestly, I don't know that myself, Allie. We'll train," said Timothy. "And let's do it together because I couldn't handle a second Paula." There were frightened notes in Allison's voice. "Of course together. How else?" said Timothy. And both understood that everything would work out for them if they were together.